Hurricane Helene took an odd path which sowed death and destruction throughout the Southeast. The Abraham Accords' fourth anniversary. Trade continues to grow. China's newest nuclear submarine sinks in its dock. This is Dr. David D. Schein for a special episode of Saving America with a weekly update. Now for the news. Hurricane Helene took an odd path which sowed death and destruction throughout the Southeast. First, I want to extend my heartfelt sympathy to those who lost family and friends to this terrible event, as well as the survivors who are facing a massive cleanup ahead. Having been through hurricanes and floods myself, I do know what it looks like, and when I say heartfelt sympathy, I'm not exaggerating. Latest death toll is an incredible 179 dead, with many still missing. The current economic loss is estimated in excess of $100 billion, and that'll probably be on the low end. Second, hopefully the governments at all levels will step up and get the type of help to people in need, and quickly. There's no time to play politics. Third, I'm concerned about the failure of our political system, regardless of party, to develop better infrastructure with regard to avoiding such disasters. Idiots wandering around complaining about climate change are not going to get this resolved. We face a serious issue in America. We have an out-of-control national debt of over $35 trillion and runaway taxes at all taxing levels. And despite the debt and the taxes, the infrastructure in America is in tatters. A friend of mine recently said, as an example, the streets in Nicaragua are better than the streets in Houston. We must tailor government to be more efficient. In the private sector, whole divisions are closed or sold when things are tough. Layoffs can be in the thousands as cost cutting is taken seriously. Most private sector employers have eliminated defined benefit pension plans. In contrast, governments at all levels continue to bloat out of control in size, salaries, and benefits. And at the same time, infrastructure and actual delivery of public services sinks into the mire. This is time for a change. Tied to this incredible loss is Buncombe County, North Carolina, in the Appalachians. The popular art city of Asheville is the county seat. Last count was 57 dead in just that county, and more than half the deaths for the whole storm were reported in North Carolina. I call for a review of a list of things, including where houses were allowed to be built, what infrastructure was in place, and what warnings were given to the residents, as just some quick starting points. This should not happen in America. This sounds like a third world village. America kicks the can down the road again. Not sure if he has enough awareness to understand what he was doing, but old Joe Biden signed what is called a stopgap measure to keep the government open until mid-December. The lawmakers have had months, but then rushed through this at the last minute. The SAVE Act to safeguard our election system was not attached to the bill, which was promised by the GOP. This got the Dems off the hook, and the usual cowards at the GOP were responsible. Now, switching to the international scene, Israel has begun to assert itself in the Middle East in dealing with terrorist groups supported by Iran. Israel has been threatened from all sides and has finally begun a systematic response. The first step discussed last week was the exploding pagers and radios of the Hezbollah terrorist groups. Israel has also been making targeted raids on individuals heading up the terrorists. They've achieved unparalleled success in taking out the leaders of Hezbollah, especially with targeted attacks in Lebanon. The cowards and terrorists ruling Iran have demanded retribution. They then fired 181 missiles and rockets into Israel in one night. Fortunately, there were no Israeli deaths. Israel's promised to respond. Some are betting it will be attacks on Iran's nuclear weapons production locations or its refineries, or perhaps both. In the meantime, the Abraham Accords' fourth anniversary. Trade continues to grow. This is based on a recent report in Newsmax by Mayor Ben Shabbat and David Aronson. Following the tragedies of October 7th, the question was whether the Middle East countries that had made peace with Israel under the Trump administration's Abraham Accords would continue to progress. Frankly, these accords were driven by economic desires, not because of the realization that we are all humans, just different. The news is pretty good. Of course, the sad part is that due to terrorism for the involved countries, moving goods through Israel is now safer than moving them through Lebanon, the Suez Canal, and the Red Sea. These countries need to keep that trade moving. They've got to keep their economies afloat also. The Newsmax report cites a new report from the Abraham Accords Peace Institute. In the first half of 2024, there was a 7% increase in trade between Israel and the UAE, a 709% increase in trade between Israel and Bahrain, a 64% increase in trade between Israel and Morocco, and a 53% increase in trade between Israel and Egypt. There was a footnote that while the possible agreement with Saudi Arabia has not directly moved forward, apparently Saudi Arabia is keeping it under consideration for when things settle down. Much coverage in the news has been Ukraine's Zelensky's campaign for support in the United States lately. They have created havoc in Russia by sending in drones and have captured an area inside Russia where they claim attacks have been launched against the war-torn country. However, realists caution that Russia is still ahead and unlikely to lose this war. After 2 years of war, Russia has captured the eastern Ukrainian town of Oldihar, which has been under intense attack. This is part of the terrorist Putin's goal of conquering all the Donbass region, which includes Donetsk and the Luhansk provinces. It now controls 80% of the overall area, with control of 98.5% of the Luhansk region and 60% of the Donetsk region. These are not good signs for Ukraine, folks. The VP debate is a big yawn. While I will comment more on the debate in my unscripted politics show with Kevin McDonald on the Brushwood Apple Network, it simply was irrelevant to the presidential election. J.D. Vance, as expected, was the better debater and even did a good job of dealing with another pair of highly partisan moderators. Walz lied his way through the evening, except his admission in response to a question about him lying. He also glossed over his cozy relationship with Red China. In fairness, Vance kept his eye on the ball about the fact that despite Harris's promises, she and Biden have been in there for nearly 4 years. Why has she not fixed all of the admitted problems by now? I do not feel that Vance hammered Walz enough on his failure to protect Minneapolis during the highly destructive riots. A Chinese nuke sub sinks in port. This is from a report in the Epoch Times, quoting the Pentagon and other sources. It's a serious subject, of course. China's newest nuke sub sank in its dock. I'm not sure if it was a loss or just needed to be pumped out. The report also indicated that this is a small sub that might be used to attack Taiwan, not a major ocean-going sub. This is relevant since the U.S. Navy has admitted that it is way behind China on increasing its fleet to match up with China. Hopefully, the U.S. Navy and its allies are at least ahead on technology. According to the report, as of 2022, China had 6 nuclear-powered ballistic missile subs, 6 nuclear-powered attack submarines, and 48 diesel-powered attack submarines. They're expected to add a greater number over the next 12 years. In my other reports and articles, I've advocated for development of a major fleet of nuclear attack subs for the United States to ensure control of the seas throughout the world, in addition to an aggressive approach to control space. To do so, we must continue advanced research, implement the death penalty for anyone spying on the development of these technologies, and of course, we need to provide appropriate funding. I have proposed that much of the federal government budget is wasted, and that includes the military. We need to have a lean, highly technologically advanced military. Nuke subs and military control of space are at the very top of that list. And to wrap up today, there's a smart idea for an older product. Ford has announced the support belt trademark, which it claims to, quote, is the first seatbelt accessory designed by a U.S. automaker to help mastectomy patients travel comfortably on their road to recovery. Ford Research designed and validated it, and it was developed with the thoughtful input of patients, doctors, engineers, designers, and other experts, close quote. Some of the attributes include simple Velcro fastening system, comfortable foam core, recycled soft suede-like surface material, and performance-tested leather trim. This is free, and there's a limit of one per customer. Pay shipping only. It is only approved for use for the shoulder part of the seatbelt for Ford and Lincoln cars. They're offering to licensing it to other manufacturers. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America. Thanks for joining us for this special weekly report. Please subscribe on your favorite platform.